Today I'm going to teach you how to make a really simple sauerkraut. Can seem a little bit daunting in the beginning, making sauerkraut, so it's nice to follow a recipe till you get used to how to do it. This is made with a red cabbage, so just get a cabbage that size. You can make a huge batch. I like to make it in this size jar, works well for me. So that needs about 500 grams of cabbage. So I'm going to use half of this cabbage. You can use green cabbage. I really like red cabbage. Either is fine. So I'm just going to use cabbage in this one, but you can add other ingredients like beetroot, carrots. You can add caraway seeds, fennel seeds. Ginger's really nice as well. But I'll just show you how to make a very basic one. So with this cabbage, cut it into chunks. What you'll need is your cabbage. You'll need some salt. This is good Celtic salt. You'll need little scales to weigh it originally, a big bowl to mix it in, and a sterilised jar. You want a jar that's got a rim on it like that, so you can fill it up to where that rim is, and it stops all the oxygen getting in there. This jar works really well for me. You can also use the airlock jars. I find this works perfectly well for me. So you cut your cabbage into chunks. You can either just slice it with a knife on a chopping board, is fine. I have one of the old-fashioned V slices that can nicely slice off your fingers as well. So I use that. I like quite a fine slice, so I put that on the fine blade. Cut your cabbage into chunks. Now you want to save a couple of these outside leaves to use to lock your jar off. So you don't want to use those outside ones anyway. So then all you do is get your, either slice it up or very easily run it through your V slicer. I just find this gives it a nice even slice, and it's really quick too. When you do it like this and you use the whole cabbage, you can just use that fore part as your handle so that you don't slice off your fingers. So just keep going with that. Sauerkrauts are considered a wild ferment, so they don't use any cultures or anything else except for salt to create the ferment. They're a lacto ferment, so just be careful I don't slice my fingers. A lacto ferment, so they use the natural bacteria on the vegetables to ferment vegetables, which creates lactic acid. Introducing any type of ferment, you have to go quite slowly because it can be very powerful and give you a strong die-off reaction, which you don't want. If you're a histamine person like me, you have to go extra slow, but it doesn't mean you should not do it. So just start off really slowly, and if you have quite a weak digestive system, you can start by just having the juice of it, so rather than the vegetable, and then you can work up to that. So as much as like a few drops can be enough for some people. That's how powerful it is. We like to use food sources of probiotics because they actually stay in your gut, whereas if you use probiotic capsules and others, you have to continue to take them because they just pass through. They do their job and pass through. So this way, using it in food is a much better way. So there you've got a big bowl of cabbage. I think that should be enough. I might just do a little bit more. You don't want to run short and not be able to. The key is you have to fill your jar up to the rim. Otherwise, you let too much oxygen in and then your ferment will spoil. So I'll just do a little bit more. If I have too much left over, I can also make some kraut juice, which is really good if you're just starting out and you need to drink the juice. It's always really high in vitamin C. So if you're getting sick, you can just drink some kraut juice. Okay, so it's probably a bit more than 500 grams, but you'll get to know how much you need for your particular jar. I'll save that and stir fry it later for dinner. Then you need to weigh out your salt. Doesn't need to be exact. So for about 500 grams, you need 20 to 30 grams of salt. So just sprinkle that over the top. Once again, it doesn't need to be exact. Then you need, with clean hands, you need to start massaging. It's as simple as that. So massage it around. You can cover it with a tea towel and let it sit for a little bit. That also draws the moisture out of the cabbage. So it will feel quite dry when you start doing this. But I'll just keep going so that we can see how it works. And quite quickly it starts to feel a bit wet. You know you've made a good sauerkraut is that when you open it after it's fermented, it's quite nice and crunchy. You don't want it really soggy. Sort of means it hasn't really fermented that well. The difference between making your own and the ones you buy from the shop, some of them, there's some great brands around, is that often the length of time that you let them ferment for, they often, the commercial ones won't have fermented for as long, which for a lot of people, especially the super sensitive, is not so great. So what you can see is happening is it's starting to, a little bit, still need a little bit more. It's starting to release its juice. Maybe I needed to do that whole cabbage. Let's see. So just keep massaging and then it really starts, you can see the juice coming out of it. That's lovely. Beetroot is really nice in sauerkraut too. You just grate it really finely or grate some carrot. You can add some different flavourings, but the basic sauerkraut is cabbage and salt. So that's looking pretty good. I'll probably go a little bit further, but so then the messy part, you need to grab your jar. And you want to make sure you pack it in without any air bubbles. So just start with a little bit in your jar. And you can use either a tool, you can get a tool that packs it in, but I find with this size jar, it's fine if I just use my hand. Pack it in. You really, because the worst enemy of a sauerkraut is oxygen, so you want to make sure you've not got any. And as you push down, you'll see that the, it's nice and messy, isn't it? You'll see that the water starts to come up above, that's perfect. So you keep pushing down. What can be a good idea as well is if you already have a batch made, is put a tablespoon of the juice. See how much juice is on the bottom of there? Can you see that? Yeah. Put a tablespoon of the previous batch of juice in there, which will just really help with the fermentation process. So push down, this is actually the perfect amount. So I will pour all of that in. And that last bit of cabbage to push down. So see as you push, then you get some, I can't really see the water on top? That's what it should look like, it should cover over. So push, push, make sure all the little, I'll rinse my hands off. Make sure all the little bits around the rim are off because they can get mold on them and you don't want any mold to go into your kraut. So then I will just grab some paper towel, just give it a wipe down to make sure you've got it nice and clean. The way you sterilise your jars, you can either do it in warm soapy water or the dishwasher. It's great. Stick it in the dishwasher, then let it air dry so it's nice and dry before you fill it. So that's perfect. That's the perfect amount there. And then you grab one of your leaves there's one. So you just, what you need to do, I'll just turn you down a little bit, is stuff that in so that it keeps all the little bits below the water level, and then when you push it, the water will come up above that leaf. And that is perfect. And pop on your lid, make sure it's nice and tight. Pop on your lid. Now I like to sit that in a nice, in a dark place. I put it in my laundry. And I like to leave it for 30 days. You can leave it a couple of weeks, is probably the minimum, but 30 days is nice. It gives you a nice ferment. So it starts to reduce some of the histamines in it, which is nice too, especially if you're new to it. And then when you open it up, if you see the lid, if you're not using an airlock, the lid starts to bulge a little bit, you just burp it. So what you do is you just don't take the lid off, but just go like that and it'll kind of release some of the air. I generally find this particular jar doesn't need that. It'll take a bit longer and cooler in winter than summer, so just keep an eye on it. But I think 30 days, 3 weeks to a month is a nice, so put the date on, because you'll forget when you've made it, and then it's ready to go. I find once I open it, put it in then you keep it in the fridge, then I start my new batch. So that sort of keeps the whole process ticking over. So good luck.